This is Let's Talk Business with your host, Marc Ebinger. Now, here's Mark.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Business Podcast. Today, we're going to talk about some of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make in their business. I'm your host, Marc Ebinger, the CEO of KUKA's Virtual Staffing, a company that recruits and staffs experienced overseas administrative assistants for insurance agents and attorneys. So as always, if you're curious about the most common tasks that virtual assistants are doing for their businesses, head over to our website at kukas.com and grab a list of the top 20 tasks that VAs are doing for businesses like yours. The link is in the podcast description.
And I am your co-host, Heather Rose Boehme. I am a certified business coach. I'm a process architect and owner of Onset Professional Development, where we focus on mapping processes for businesses that are looking to sell so they can make their business worth more value, or they're looking to scale and grow and their processes suck, so it's chaotic.
I like that. Process architect.
Me too.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
ChatGPT came up with it.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Me
and ChatGPT are like buddies now. I told it to talk to me like a combination of Mel Robbins and Gary Vee. And so
Gary Vee's a lot of cussing. You can do a lot of cussing?
He's
okay
kind
with
of
that.
toning it down a little bit, I think, nowadays.
like the old Gary Vee, maybe Donald Miller mixed in there. I've just been adding personalities to my ChatGPT, and it's been really helping. So me and ChatGPT brainstorm, and it came up with Process Architect, and I like it, so I'm going with it.
I love it.
Okay.
And
In fact, is that website available, processarchitect.com?
I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I know we're going to get into mistakes entrepreneurs make. I
Is
think
that one of them?
complicating your branding is definitely one of them.
It sounds cool, though.
And how do I know that? Thank you for asking. Well, it's because I'm Howie Nestel and I own Sharkmatic Advertising. For 35 years, I've been helping clients with their branding, brand messaging, and how to get it to the ideal audience, both through conventional types of marketing deliverables as well as all the newer school stuff, all the digital stuff. So if you want to know more about that, go to sharkmatic.com. Let's have a meeting in person, live with real humans at my office. And let's talk about how we can grow your company's digital influence.
All right, a quick reminder to follow the Let's Talk Business podcast on all major podcast platforms and social media, where you can catch a video version of the show anytime. You can get to everything easily from our website at satalkradio.com. Now, the next mixer is coming up. We got the next big Let's Talk Business mega mixer coming up here in San Antonio on Thursday, March 27th from 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. Now, tickets are on sale now for just $20, $25 at the door if they're still available. So we're going to max out at $300, and we're expecting to sell out again. It's a huge expo-style mixer with plenty of food and drinks. Yes, alcohol drinks at there, because that is the business mixer social lubricant. Yeah, I can say that word.
Sounds a little gross, but it is true.
Did ChatGPT help you with that?
No, it didn't. But I should put that in there and say, give me some variants that won't offend Heather Boehme.
Oh, I'm not offended.
No,
it
she's
just
not
sounds
offended.
gross, and I'm always
No,
going to
but
say it.
there's nothing you could say that wouldn't offend somebody.
Yeah, right.
Very true.
In fact, that offended me that you just said that.
Yeah, well, now and
I'm
I'm
triggered.
offended. I'm actually offended that you're offended.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, I'm double offended.
Did you see that J.D. Vance thing about the people who are offended by the word mother? And if a pilot is offended by the word whatever, that maybe he shouldn't be flying, 50,000-pound pieces of metal across the country at 30,000 feet.
Did you see the Diary of a CEO episode? And it was Evie something. She used to be a Secret Service officer protecting like Obama and everybody. But she said, if you're easily offended, you're easily manipulated.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a
Oh, yeah.
great quote.
You give your power away big time if you're easily offended. That's something I've tried to tell my daughter. It's like, look, as you're growing up, don't give your power away to somebody else by being offended. And in fact, somebody who is like a bully, or they're trying to get a reaction from you, when they don't get a reaction from you, it sucks the power away from them. They feel defeated.
Yeah.
It's kind of a win. So
I feel like that just kind of goes into the mindset of it, which leads us into the topic we're talking about anyway, because entrepreneurship, I've heard say, is 80% mindset and 20% effort. What do you guys think about that?
Well, let me get into my sponsors first.
Oh, wait,
I got to do my
sponsors.
shout outs
Sorry.
here.
I was going to
All right,
the
so
show.
the net proceeds from our events, of course, they go to support local charities here in the San Antonio area, which Howie Nestel is a part of all of those in some way or fashion. So look, if you're in the San Antonio area, you want to support a great charity, I recommend following Howie Nestel at howienestel.com or find him on social media, and you can easily just kind of connect with him and let him help you get involved with some cool local charities. I like to connect people with you to do the Crit Tour over there, which is one of the organizations that we're going to be sponsoring. You guys got a gala coming up in May, right?
May 17th, correct. First of all, let's talk about what CRIT is. CRIT is the Children's Rehabilitation Institute, Telethon USA. It's very simply a facility for children with disabilities. Oh man, that tea is not kicking in yet. So this organization's been around for 10 years, local here in San Antonio, one-of-a-kind facility in the entire United States, found right here in our hometown. They serve 350 kids and their families who are battling through disabilities. And so the kids graduate through the program. Some of them, the parents were told they'd never walk or talk. The parents were told, this is kind of a last resort, and they're teaching kids through a variety of multiple pillars of treatment how to be self-sufficient in their lives. So it's really quite a remarkable place. As Mark mentioned, I host a tour on the last Thursday of every month. Reach out at howienestel.com. Happy to invite you. So the proceeds from the Let's Talk Business Mega Mixer, part of the proceeds will go there, part of them will go to Camp Discovery, a camp for kids with cancer, and part of it will go to Got You Covered, which is a collection drive for the homeless. It's been around now for almost 30 years.
All right, now a quick shout out to Ian Bertini and his team at BPI Insurance Agency for being a gold sponsor for the upcoming Let's Talk Business Mega Mixer on March 27th. Based in San Antonio, BPI Insurance Agency is a family-owned and operated brokerage with over 40 years of combined experience. They specialize in personal and commercial insurance lines, offering services such as home, auto, landlord, business, and professional liability insurance. Their commitment to service through education insurance clients are well-informed and adequately protected.
And the time for checking on your insurance is now because prices have gone up a lot. And so a good insurance agent can actually save you some money.
Yeah, it certainly can. And you don't want to find about it where you're not covered when you're trying to file a claim. So, all right. So if you're looking for a comprehensive insurance solution tailored to your needs, be sure to check them out at bpi-agency.com, or you can call them at 210-761-6001. Ian's a fantastic guy, and this is the second time he's been a sponsor for one of our events. So come on out to the event and say hi.
When somebody does things twice, tells me they were successful the first time.
Yeah. And not only that, but he reached out to us saying, hey, I'm interested in doing this.
Very nice.
So it's like these events, I really like them. And I'm super excited about the new venue for this one here. We can't have bottled beer, though. That's the only downside.
Yeah, you're really stuck on the bottled beer.
I am.
You've said that like 4 times now.
Yeah.
It's okay, though, because koozies rock. I'm from a koozie family.
But you can put a koozie on a bottle.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, but you don't.
No, you typically don't. It
You
doesn't
put
look
a
as
koozie
cool.
on a can.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
All right, so you were going to kick it off with something.
I was. Mindset. So talking about why entrepreneurs fail. And one of the reasons that we're starting this is because I went to a panel on Friday talking to business bankers, right? And they were just, there was a lot of questions about how to get a loan, how to get money from institutions. But what most of the business owners weren't asking was, what happens when you get the money? And so I asked them, tell me a story about a business that got the loan and still failed, and what was it they could have done to save themselves? And they all had almost the exact same answer across the 3 of them. And it was communication. If they had just communicated with their banker, if they had just been open to taking suggestions, if they had been willing to ask for help, then the bankers could have probably bought them time to get it sorted out. But all of them did the exact opposite, which was they stopped communicating. They just turtled in, and they decided they were going to try to outrun or out-earn their problems. And inevitably, they went belly up. So what do you guys think causes that lack of communication that we see so often in entrepreneurs?
Well, so before Howie jumps in, I know he's a wealth of knowledge. I would say knowledge. Do you even know that you can reach out to your banker for help? Because that could be a bottleneck right there. And then beyond that, I would say my number 2 would be the ostrich, analogy where you stick your head in the sand because you don't want to really acknowledge that bad things are happening, and maybe it'll pass you by. But what do you think, Howie?
You know, getting money is actually part of the problem, because when you get money, you now feel like you don't have to communicate as well. You don't have to do as much because now you're okay. You just bought yourself another 6 months or a year. And certainly by then, I'll have more than enough revenue to pay back all my loans, and then I'll be living high on the hog. So you mentioned earlier the word mindset. This might not be for everybody, but I've had a mindset in 30 years and 24 businesses I've been a partner in. I have a mindset that I'm going out of business. And so I operate like I'm going out of business. I don't let myself rest on my laurels. And if I have too much money in a particular business account, I just transfer it to my personal account, and then it's no longer in my business account. Now I have to go make more. You know, and there's a lot of philosophies. Pay yourself first. There's a whole bunch of things you can do, but these are all tactics. But I think somebody who's a bad communicator with money becomes a worse communicator.
And I think pride has something to do with it too. That's a big thing, because you're not an entrepreneur unless you have, I've said it before, attention issues and authority issues. Most people who go off on their own have one of the two, if not both. And there's a big level of pride and ego that comes into having a certain amount of money, and embarrassment, I think, from not hitting those marks that keeps people from reaching out to community. When most of the really successful business owners I know they actively communicate, they actively ask for help. So have you guys ever dealt with that where you should probably ask for help or ask someone to come in on this problem, but you're just too embarrassed to share the problem?
We've all been there. We've all been there. The question is, can you be there and still survive it to be an entrepreneur another day? Or are you going to be that guy or woman that you're not going to ask for help, and then your business is going to go under because you weren't willing to ask for help? And bankers, great source of information, because they usually lend money to successful people. So obviously they saw something in you that led them to think that you have a good shot at being successful. And then you go dark. They have other clients that they could refer to you that could become a client of yours. They also can give you guidance in terms of resources. They know CPAs, they know attorneys, they know usually somebody that can resolve your problem. But who do you usually ask? Your buddy who has a job at Cane's, who's, making chicken for $12 an hour, who is the last person you should be asking advice from.
Well, I think we're heading towards community here, and your network is super important. Who you surround yourself with. Always looking to surround yourself with people that have a little bit more knowledge or different experiences. It could be the same type of stuff, but
or have been in business longer than you have, even if it's in a different industry, for sure.
Well, and what I found is it's like so scary to share those things, right? It's like you're embarrassed, you feel shame, you feel like you're a failure. So it's really hard to show that side of yourself when Facebook and Instagram, it's all of us just bragging about how awesome we are and everybody's doing great. But my personal experience is when you're able to kind of air that out, even though it's really painful and it kind of sucks to admit that this is what's going on, this is how I feel about it, and I don't know what to do. That's when I've gotten the most value from people, and nobody that I've talked to, some random stranger on the internet would probably make fun of me for it. But if you share that with the right people, it is liberating, because all of a sudden all that shame, embarrassment, fear kind of goes away, and you get actual actionable advice instead of getting like a Band-Aid on a gaping wound, right? That's not going to fix anything. You have to open it up and let them see all of it before they can actually give you good advice. And I think that's where people, they try to tell the half truth, and then whoever's giving them the advice doesn't really know the whole depth of it.
No, well, that's the thing. You find the right group. So there's groups. I was part of one called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and they have forums. And during the forums, you focus on somebody's problem and you rotate it around the group. There's YPO. Mark, you're a member of Provisors. If somebody were to join Provisors, could they get advice from peers?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the power of the network, is these are all professionals in different areas. We mentioned banking. I mean, we've got John Turgell. He's actually going to be coming on, I think, next week or the week after for some Provisors talk. But he's a guy that knows banking. He's been in banking a long time. He's an expert in the SBA. So for small business loans, he's the guy who can tell you all the nitty gritty about that. And he's super connected too to help solve problems. So yeah, you got to have a great network, in my opinion. And I didn't have a network when I started, but I built one over time, through the podcast mainly, but then also through BNI, which BNI is good, but Provisor is a whole different level when it comes to like higher level entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I'm going to let you all in on a little secret. Even though I'm the most senior podcaster here today, but it also has to do with the fact that I have friends that are my age and older that are ridiculously successful. And you know that most of them are not mentors. Most of them, not because they don't want to be, because I think a lot of people think they're unapproachable. And so you don't walk up to somebody and say, hey, would you be my mentor? I heard you talk. You're awesome. Will you be my mentor? Can I call you every day, every hour on the hour? No, you don't do that. You just, you chit chat with them and you get a little bit of advice. You say, can I take you to coffee and pick your brain for 30 minutes?
Can I get that ticket to the Crick Gala,
and so,
for
right,
example?
Yeah,
We'll
and
do
I'd
some more
say,
talking
absolutely,
there.
bring $250 and you have a ticket to the Crick Gala.
Okay.
But here's the secret. People, and I won't put myself in that stature, but of my friend's stature who are very successful, have been entrepreneurs for decades, they love talking about what they do and they love talking about themselves and they love giving advice. You know who they like giving advice to? People who are going to listen.
Right, hungry people. But wait,
Yes.
before you, so we got to address the senior podcaster thing because both her eyebrows went up. My eyebrows.
I assumed he meant age.
Yes.
Is that
Like
what
how
you meant
old
by
he is?
age? Not by
Yes.
experience. Okay.
I was kind of tilting my head because I'm not
I
going to
don't know
lie.
anybody
Maybe
who's
it's
got
by
more-
number of podcasts listened to. I've been listening to podcasts since they were
I
invented.
can almost guarantee I've listened to more podcasts than both of you.
I listen to one every single day.
I listen to multiple
that's a
every single
lie.
day.
Then you won. Yeah, but I've been doing it longer than you have. Okay, now let's not fight.
Podcasts have been around since, I have been able to listen to. They're not something that's been around for 20 years.
I was listening to
Howie.
Tony Robbins on cassette with my Walkman.
And I think I don't know, you've got a podcast that you're launching, but it would take you a long time to even come near catching up with me in my interviews.
I'll eventually catch up with Mark.
I'll never catch up.
Yeah,
I'll never catch
you
up.
might. Who knows?
No. Let me tell you, here are all the things I need to do. And then you skip a big gap. And then here is start a podcast. Okay. So.
But you started, yours is
We
already
launched
running?
a new podcast.
Yeah, what is it again?
So it's called Bigger Than the Hustle. It's on Bigger Than the Hustle YouTube and then all of the streaming platforms. And it's something that's been called interesting by a person who doesn't know me. So that was cool. But basically, my friend and business partner, Chris, started his business 13 years ago and built it to where he works 10 hours a week. His business is in Pennsylvania. He lives in Florida, and he runs it completely remote and was able to really create time and financial freedom with his business. And then I am coming from this perspective of someone in my 30s with little kids trying to build that. So I'm not there yet trying to get there, and he's there trying to figure out how to navigate what next, right? Because success isn't the destination, it's the process. So that's where we're coming at it from. It's not just about hustle. Success doesn't mean you got to grind until you get there, because you get there and all of a sudden there's a new horizon. There's a new thing. It doesn't end. So you have to learn what you want and how to make the process something that you enjoy, because ultimately that's all you can control is today and now, and you could get hit by a bus tomorrow. So if you're miserable, hustling, cold calling, dialing constantly, there's a time and a place for it, but it can't be your whole life.
No, that's exhausting to even think about having to do that for years. But so are you going to have guests on the show?
We will. We already have one that's volunteered. Chris has a fantastic network of more established business owners. He's been around for a while. He's in the higher levels of those networking groups that I'm on, like GoBundance, M1. So there's some really, like Cody Sanchez is in M1. The guy that co-owns Keller Williams, is in GoBundance. He helped form it. So there's a bunch of really high level people in those masterminds. And Chris knows a lot more of them than me and isn't quite so like on the low scale. So he's already lining up guests to come on, and they're each going to talk about a specific topic in that episode. So
what's the goal of the show?
Honestly, we both just have a passion for speaking, kind of wanted to share that message. And for me, ultimately, I'm trying to grow my consulting side of the business and the process side. And one day I would really like to have a platform where people learn how to do it for themselves early. Right now, there's not a huge demand for it because process mapping is not sexy, and it's not something people who are focused on building their business and sales think about, but I want to make it sexy. So in order to do that, I have to have a bigger platform.
Making process mapping sexy.
That's what I want to do. Because nobody does. And then they try to delegate stuff and it goes horribly wrong and their employees hate them and then they quit and then they have to start all over and then their business is running them and it drives everybody crazy because I've been that employee and I've been that business owner. It sucks on both sides. Nobody wants to have a bunch of burned out employees and no employees ever want to be so busy that they're burnt out. And a lot of it comes down to, do you know your processes? Do they know them? Have you set reasonable expectations? It's not sexy, though. It's like fixing the foundation of your house.
Right. It's important.
It's important, but
sexy.
it's not sexy. It's not like slapping a new coat of paint on or a thing of tile. That's what
I think you need a
everybody wants to do.
quadrant for that. Sexy and important, not sexy, but
Oh, that'd
not
be a
important.
fun one.
Yeah.
We could do that. Like, I've got a whiteboard, so.
Well, I think if you move past those words to what produces revenue, it's like what's going to, like in real estate, which how I know you're doing. So what's the name of the real estate business?
Skill Set Homes.
Skill Set
house flipping business.
So you've got to have the bling. You got to have the stuff that catches people's eyes, generally speaking. That's what helps increase the sellability or the maybe the profit that you'll make on the house. Different in business. Business, ideally, we want the cash flow. It's like it should be what produces cash flow and how do we get better at producing cash flow, which is something that I'm always looking to dial in on. I'm always looking to learn on how to do that. So all of the time, energy, and money that I spend on things is going to be more geared towards, does it increase cash flow for my business? So what are your thoughts on that, Heather, as far as when people are looking at business? By the way, your systems that what's it called, the process architect?
Yes.
That part right there, in my mind, can increase cash flow because you can identify areas where you can, make it automated or outsource it or whatever. Get an expert to come in and take care of that particular thing so you don't have to waste time on it and actually earn more money. But what are your thoughts on that as far as cash flow goes?
Well, I think you just answered the question. Honestly, it's what things are you doing that are not dollar productive? What things are you having to jump back into your business for? What phone calls are you getting from your staff over and over and over again? Because the same thing keeps happening. The same ball keeps getting dropped, or when you delegate a task or a project, you're never quite sure where it is and you have to go track it down and find it. All of that time you spent jumping into your business is not dollar productive. If your operations run smoothly, it's dollar productive because now you can go get more business and your operations can churn out more business. Because when I started this whole journey, I was 25 working for a signage company, and the guy running it was an amazing sales guy. Oh my gosh, he would bring in these massive projects. Big problem though was our operations team was an absolute nightmare mess. We had an 8-week backlog. He would come in and be like, I promised it to him in 2 weeks. We couldn't do that without bumping a significant portion of the actual production line. So we started to get a bad reputation because we kept getting way too many sales and we couldn't churn out the business because the operations was an absolute shit show, for lack of a better word. And I didn't know how to fix it at the time. I was 25. It would have absolutely behooved him at the time to fix the foundation that kept causing the plumbing leaks, the electric to spark, the drywall. Every time you slapped a patch over it, it cracks again because the foundation is fundamentally broken. It doesn't matter how many sales you bring in. If they can't be actually facilitated, well, then your time is not better spent on sales anymore. It's better spent on
so
operations.
the whole philosophy of sales and increased revenue solves most problems could be true if you're spending that money you're bringing in on fixing the right things in your business. But if your operations suck, getting more business actually hurts you because then your reputation is damaged. And that's more important now than it used to be because of Google reviews, Yelp reviews, Manta reviews, those kinds of things. And so it's very hard to overcome a bad reputation in the marketplace.
Absolutely. And a lot of people, like, a bad Google review is going to happen. I mean, it's inevitable. You can't be in business for an extended amount of time without getting a bad one. There's always going to be weird people.
Or a less than perfect one.
Or a less than perfect one. But you can even have a process around how to handle that. My daycare had terrible reviews. Terrible. And I looked, and under every 1-star review, the daycare director had gone and responded to it and told the exact story. These are false reviews from a parent whose child we had to let out of the daycare, and they got their entire family to come and leave the daycare negative reviews. We're working on getting them removed. But like, she very clearly outlined what happened. I mean, she didn't go into crazy detail, but I was like, okay. And every time I see a bad review, I go to 1 stars and I look for the business owner to reply. But she had a system around, when I get a bad review, I'm going to go and respond to it. And that's just a process.
In marketing, we tell our clients to do that. Yeah. Go respond to the negative reviews.
I honestly like it if you're a little sassy.
On that too. There's attorneys that'll go and they'll send out threatening letters that if it's a false review type situation where they're getting family members to pile on.
I honestly suspect businesses that have no bad reviews. If you have all 5-star reviews, I'm honestly a little sus about that. I would rather you have a few negative reviews because you can't do business without pissing someone off.
Well, I've got 2 businesses coming on a 1 o'clock show that one has 171 reviews, 5-star, and the other one's got 30 something and 5-star.
You're telling me they've never pissed anybody off?
Either that or they got them corrected.
Yeah.
Which could be a thing.
Yeah, but you know what? Google is a trusted source. So if you have no negative reviews, most people would not think like you. Most people would think like, wow, they have a perfect, that's great on Google. You know, that's admirable. You know?
Apparently I'm just pessimistic that way. I'm like, I know that we're all human and we all F up sometimes.
Well,
so
of course. I don't think it means that you haven't fucked up. I think you haven't screwed up enough to piss off somebody who's willing to leave you a negative review.
That's true.
Yeah, it's not about being perfect, right?
Yeah. Are we still talking about mistakes business owners make? Because there's a whole bunch of them.
Oh yeah, let's listen
What's
more.
the next one?
They're not spending money on marketing.
Yeah.
You know, and again, biased opinion, you know, so full disclosure, Howie Nestel owns Sharkmatic Advertising. but it's why precisely I'm qualified to talk about this. I've seen business owners that do pretty well without marketing. And they say, well, I don't need marketing because I'm doing well without it. So why would I want to waste money on marketing? And then something happens, a pandemic, an economic downturn. Then they're calling me, hey, what can we do, Howie, by way of marketing? I need some business. Like, okay, well, we can. Now you're playing catch up, though, because everybody else is thinking the same way. So we could do these 7 things. They're like, yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't have any money because business sucks right now. So the time to advertise is when you don't need clients. It's when you're building your reputation. If you think about Coca-Cola or Nike, some of these companies that do brand advertising, they're not selling you a shoe or a soft drink. They're selling you on their brand. So when you have money and you're making money and you have plenty of business, do brand advertising. When your business is going down, you're going into a tough time, you know that, traditionally first quarter is slow, whatever it happens to be, that's when you want to shift your marketing and look for an ROI, a return on your marketing investment dollar, and you want to do some product or service advertising at that time. That's not the time to build brand. This is the time to go in and get more revenue for your business. And so understanding that, and that marketing really should provide an ROI, and you shouldn't have your neighbor's cousin's son who took a class at Alamo College build your website, just like you wouldn't take a multi-million-dollar restaurant and put it in the hands of a minimum wage greeter. Makes no sense.
So, Howie, I've heard people talk about marketing the exact opposite, right? They say, oh, I'm so busy, and if I paid for Google ads or I paid for marketing, we couldn't handle the amount of business that comes in. But what I'm hearing you say is almost like anti-anxiety meds, right? You don't take a pill and your anxiety goes away. It takes like a few weeks for that medicine to slowly build up in your system to where it actually helps your anxiety. Is that how marketing is?
That's how marketing is. What problem would you rather have? Your revenue's down 70%. You can't make rent. You can't make payroll. You can't make your car, your vehicle, your commercial vehicle payments? Or do you want to have the first world problem like, oh my God, I'm getting too many calls. I may have to hire somebody else to come in and help us. Or I may have to sub out some of the work to a friendly competitor. I'd much rather have that problem.
Well, and it's the first time I've heard it put like that, is it change your marketing strategy from client acquisition to branding.
I like that.
Promoting your brand. Because then you won't necessarily get as many clients as if you were doing client acquisition advertising, but you're going to build that brand up, so that brand awareness.
It's like prepping. It's like prepping the ground so that when you do put seeds in, they grow faster, stronger, bigger, etc.
Yeah, but you should always be advertising. Always be advertising. People say always be closing, always be selling, always be marketing. Should always be marketing.
And for me, like I'm looking at different avenues of client acquisition. So right now I do a lot of networking, ton of networking, right? Which I've kind of figured out podcasting is one of the slowest ways to do networking. But it's good for branding. But I mean, I have years and years of content now. I can continue the branding at a high level, I think. But it's probably not true branding advertising, but it's still good for social media. But I'm looking at going beyond networking for client acquisition. And one of the ways is through LinkedIn. Outreach, funnel campaigns that end up as to an inside sales rep at some point rather than me, which we had talked about. I shouldn't be the only salesman for my company because it does pigeonhole things and it can lock things down if I'm unavailable or unable to do something. So what are your guys' thoughts on that, looking for different avenues of client acquisition?
I'll let Heather answer that question, but I just want to touch base on one thing that you said, which you said maybe podcasting is not a great way of brand marketing.
No, networking, client acquisition.
Oh, for client acquisition. Okay, but it's still a form of marketing. Client acquisition, sales, that's all a form of marketing. But if you were to be mentioning Crookus over and over again, it's good brand marketing. But you're also branding yourself, Marc Ebinger. The question then becomes, does Crookus benefit from Marc Ebinger branding himself and taking your fancy pictures with cop cars and airplanes and things like that? So for me, Howie Nestel, I leverage the Howie Nestel brand to help Sharkmatic. But Sharkmatic has to stand on its own because let's say, Google wants to buy me for $1.2 billion. They don't want Howie mentioned in all of the Google reviews. So if I get Google reviews for Sharkmatic, I want them to be for Sharkmatic, not for Howie, not for Jordan, not for some of my team members, for the company itself so that it's a standalone. So Howie Nestel has to have his own marketing. Sharkmatic has to have its own standalone marketing. That includes social media, that includes SEO, that includes everything else. So think about that and be more on purpose about what it is that you're out there marketing and branding. So
right
I'll let
now,
you answer.
Everything's like, I have at Marc Ebinger is my Instagram, right? And it's got me, it's got podcasts,
And your
it's got
YouTube,
virtual staffing, all of that. It's not, it's not a.
Yeah. By the way, Google, not a fan of that stuff. Why? Because, it's like, repairing radiators and then on the weekend selling barbacoa. You know what I mean? What are you? Are you a restaurant or an auto repair shop? So Google needs to categorize you in some way, shape, or form. So at some point you may consider, you're still a young man, you may want to consider separating those brands out and those offerings.
Howie, when is your birthday?
April 14th.
Okay, I knew it was coming up because you've mentioned your age several times already.
Yeah.
In
I
this
mentioned
episode.
it once too.
Yeah, well, you said 70 and you were
Well,
close.
you look good for 70.
No, I look damn good for 70.
Especially since you're not 70.
Yeah, I would bet money you're not 70.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like we've talked about this before. It's like taking the Marc Ebinger brand and being able to funnel it into Crookus and vice versa, rather than it being one and the same. it's two separate entities. That's what I'm looking to create, because there's different ways of lead gen. Like, you're really interested in the LinkedIn and building those funnels out. Me personally, I am bombarded by messages on LinkedIn. I hate them. I don't read my LinkedIn messages anymore because it's all just like, hey, Heather, would you be interested in taking on 5 to 7 clients every month? And I'm like,
Right.
BS.
Yeah.
No,
Delete.
I'm not. Delete. It's all of them. It's every single message I get. So I just ignore it. I have been overindulged on that.
Well, that's why like your open rates are so low and your response rates are really, really bad. But it is
are
a numbers
they?
game. If you hit somebody with,
On the LinkedIn game.
Yeah.
I was like, can you see my open rates? Because I open like 0 of them.
yeah, so but if you're crafting a good subject line and having a short message that hits somebody, like, you know, if a law firm is frustrated with their paralegal services or whatever, and you just hit them at the right, that's what that is. It's kind of a shotgun approach, throw everything in the wall and see what sticks. But it's a numbers game. So as long as the potential market is massive, you can really hit it if you've got a good system in place. So it can generate.
Oh, yeah.
Beyond
Not saying
networking.
it can't. It's just, you choose your lane, because there is a lot of different options out there for marketing, for building lead funnels. There's a lot of different avenues about it. And you just got to find one that works for
several.
you and that you'll actually do, or several. Yeah, it just depends.
And the ones that work are not going to work forever. And the ones that didn't work last year might work this year. You may have to try it.
And so
Again.
my thought is, you know, I'm all about leverage and assigning tasks to other folks, but I've got a team now that I can say, okay, let's build this out a little bit more on purpose on the LinkedIn side, and I can get it all automated and I can get it all assigned to other people to watch, monitor, and it either just comes to me as a strange inquiry or it comes as a calendar appointment, and so that's what I'm looking to build, is more of that outreach beyond networking, because obviously networking works very well for me. Especially on the provisor side, it's really kicking. It's moving faster than the B&I side did.
Now let's talk about one of the most popular lead generation tools of the day. And this might be going off topic a little bit, but how do you guys feel about using books for lead gen? So many people are writing books for lead generation.
I don't know. I think it's one of those vanity metrics that people like, which I think is fun if you've got the money for it. Handing out a book, you know, that's probably cost you $5, is not the best business card. And most people, I don't think, are going to actually sit down and read it unless they're extremely interested in what it is that whatever your service is. Like, I could probably have a thin one that's on, you know, VA stuff, and if I hit the right person with it, could be beneficial. But she had a video do the same thing, you know. It's like, I don't know. I kind of like the idea on one hand, but I also see it as a bit of a, scam's too hard of a word, but it's kind of like
Gimmicky almost sometimes.
Gimmicky? Yeah. It's a good word.
Gimmicky. There you go.
I think it depends on the purpose of the book you're writing. Like, if you're wanting to write a book and you want to add value, then I'm thrilled for it. But if the only reason for the book was lead generation, then I think it lands in the gimmicky aisle. What about you, Howie?
I hate the idea as writing a book and handing it out and thinking that that's going to build your street cred. And I'm with Mark. I think most people don't read it because most people don't read books that they don't want to read. I think most people don't read books. But if you're going to read a book, you're going to read a book you want to read, that somebody recommended or that somebody got results from, that you want to try to emulate and get those results, then you're likely to read that book. But, you know, if I'm at a mixer and a guy that owns a power washing company hands me a book about growing your company 10x, that I don't even think that thing's going to make it to my house.
So I had a friend tell me this one time, and it stuck, and it wasn't you, Howie, or you, Heather, but it was produce customers. If you can, like, if we're all in the service business, right, or B2B services. So if we can help produce customers for our clients, we'll have them forever, right? That is what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's a Zig Ziglar
That's where
thing.
my focus.
You know, help enough other people get what they want, and you'll get everything you want
I just honed it in on
customers.
it's actual money. It's like if your clients are making money from
Heck
your
yes.
service, they're going to be with you forever.
Yeah, for sure. But by the way, to finish up the book thing, But I agree with you. If you write a book and it's a well-written book and it's about something that people find important, I think people should totally, you could leverage that you're a published author. But I've read books by a half dozen or more friends of mine. I couldn't get through the first couple pages without thinking like, holy shit, this book is horrible, you know?
And it's a bestseller because they got some of the Amazon.
Yeah, because they got 6 people to buy it on Amazon, you know? It's a bestseller for the first 20 minutes, you know, on ebook, and they sold it for $1. I don't think anybody's buying that. And even the ones that don't know that that's a hack or, you know, like you said, a gimmick or whatever, I think most people don't give a shit anyway.
No, and
they're still not going to hire you just because you wrote a book.
Be embarrassed anyway, get introduced on a podcast as a best-selling author when you know darn well you spent $40 and got it as a bestseller for 4 seconds.
Right. Well, we had a guy here that will write your mini book for you and print it and send you 500 copies and you give them out. I love the idea until you think the whole thing through.
Cards, yeah.
Right.
The little mini ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Jaime did that from Strategic Property Management.
So what did he think? What was his, did he have an ROI on it?
He forgot to be giving, he gave out some at the beginning and it was like, oh my God, it was so much fun. And I'm like, you know, even if you don't think it's fucking exciting, what makes you think other people are going to think like, oh, wow. And he gave me a book. I don't remember what the hell it was about. He gave me a book, but he's a friend, so I kept it. You know, I don't know where it is now.
You have it on your coffee table?
I didn't read it. No.
I actually think I have his book in my purse.
Do you really?
Yeah, let me check.
Huh, that's fun.
That would be fun. This is like, let's make a deal. If
the
you have a book from...
is exciting. But it's a vanity metric. That's all it is. It's at least in my
Wow, look at that. That is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20. Okay, so all right. So now
property
I love him. He's a dear friend of mine. But why do I care about a 21st century property management firm? You know?
Well, you're not his target audience.
Yeah, I think
he gave me the book, so obviously he thinks I am.
Because you're his friend.
Well, I think he gave you the book to give it to someone else, and
And
that's
you're in
kind of why
business
I've
with
kept
him
it in
now,
my
too.
purse, right? If I
Yeah.
run into somebody,
So you've
who's-
had it for a year and you haven't given it away to
I
anybody.
haven't. I kind of forget about it until I see it when I'm cleaning, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I have it, and then I forget about it a little bit again.
Yeah, but he's
until
going to
right
be excited it's in your purse. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in my purse. It's ready to go.
So, but now you're in business with him. So maybe this was the thing that pushed you over the top to realize maybe this guy knows what he's doing.
I would hope he already died. It took till now, Jaime.
I already know he knows what he's doing. I don't need a pamphlet to
Now,
know
that being said, would you still write a book?
Yes.
Well, wait a minute. What book do you want to write?
Yeah, but my book is a passion project about doing philanthropic work for 3.5, 4 decades and how it's drastically changed the quality of my life and how it's introduced me to people that I would maybe not have ordinarily met through a business world. And it's given me a sense of purpose and meaning and something that, you know, serving others, which I can't get from business, from money, from other levels of success. You know, when you turn it around, or, you know, it's that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, when you work towards achieving some sort of self-actualization and realize that you have a purpose in life, that you have a meaning, and that usually it involves helping other people. And it's a continuum, and you're giving somebody else a hand up, that when you need a hand up, when I had a house fire, when I had some, you know, medical challenges come up and people stepped up to come and help me, I think like, wow, that's God, karma, Mother Nature. This is all part of that. Life is reflecting back on me what I am, not what I want, not what I desire, not what I hustle for. But it's, what are you putting out, and what are you getting, and what kind of life? What kind of life are you living? And I think that's something that's missing in a lot of people's lives, because we hear about the hustle, we buy the T-shirts, we go out and grind, and we do all these other things. And even the people who manage to achieve a level of financial success, some of them, maybe like your partner, says, okay, now what? You know, now that I have my shit together, what do I do with it, and why? What's the purpose? I talked to somebody who sold their company for $24 million, and he's like, man, he goes, I didn't realize what I didn't know until I started getting involved with some nonprofits. And he goes, you're one of the ones I've been actually following, kind of stalking online from your videos, even though we haven't had a lot of conversations around it. I didn't realize that that's what was missing until I had the time to think about it. And I got out of the grind because my company was purchased. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I've been missing that for years.
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
So the answer is yes, I'm running a book.
we keep ourselves busy with, with the hustle and the grind, and we're not working on the business enough. We're working in the business too much, which narrows our field of vision when it comes to other things that might be helpful to us as a person, which then that's like soil for the rest of the business. You have good soil, you're going to have a great business, you're going to have a great, I guess, crop, if you will, to use the farm analogy since we're there. But some of the mistakes I think that business owners, and we've talked about this before, but we're so honed in on that we're not making time to grow the self too, which getting involved in community and giving back and becoming a person that outwardly cares about the community and so forth. But we feel like we just don't have time for that shit. It's like, I'm already exhausted. I'm already kind of tapped out, barely making my bills. I don't have time to do this, or I don't have the money to do that. What's your answer there?
It's usually precisely that which is keeping you from making the money and having the time that you need.
Okay, but you need to explain that.
Okay, sounds counterintuitive. Here it goes. If you want something done, you give it to somebody who's busy. If you want to get something done efficiently, you give it to somebody who is otherwise lazy and not a self-starter, because they're going to find the quickest, fastest way to do it if they know and understand that they have to get it done. In other words, it's a mandate. And so for me, when it comes to philanthropy, and kind of I have a love-hate relationship with that word because it sounds like, oh, this rich guy giving a bunch of money. When I talk about volunteerism, community service work, those kinds of things, that's how I define philanthropy. I don't look at it as a nice thing to do. It would be nice if I actually got a chance to do some more of that because I like the way it makes me feel. For me, it's an obligation. I'm here, and again, I don't want to sound very Father Teresa-ish here, but I'm here, and I think we're all here as human beings to help others, especially those who are the least fortunate. Doesn't just mean rolling down your window and giving a buck to somebody who's panhandling. It means get involved with somebody, get involved with an organization, go and help their mission. If you had a cousin who passed away from cancer, go get involved with the Kids Cancer Project. If you have, a family member who has some form of disability, go work with kids with disability or adults with disabilities. If, homelessness is your thing, and you're a NIMBY, not in my backyard kind of person, then go out and try to make a difference in your community and reduce homelessness and do your part. It's not a nice thing to do. It's an obligation. Now, you start to do it. All of a sudden, you feel good about it. Now you do more of it. And then you meet the CEO of some Fortune 200 company, which happened to me, by the way, started doing business with him. I would have never met this guy had I not been involved with this nonprofit. Then that turned into business. And all of a sudden, now I'm addicted. Now I need to do more of that. Then you say, okay, well, Howie, then congratulations. You just admitted that you're selfish and you're doing it for self. Okay, guilty as charged then. But I feel good about it. Now I'm making quality contacts. Now I'm making money from it. Why wouldn't I want to do more of it? I'm not going to the food bank and sorting cans every day and paying for my own gas and having to spend 3 hours there instead of going out and selling more websites. It's precisely because I do community service work that I'm put into the right mindset in the right networking groups to grow my influence as a speaker, as a writer, as an entrepreneur in doing business. I'm meeting the right quality people. And then I get to invite Heather and Mark to come with me. And then you guys form your own connection with this nonprofit. And you see something in it that I would never see that is your connection to it. And then all of a sudden you're inviting more people. Then all of a sudden your cachet and your net worth goes up because now you're inviting people to do something meaningful. Not just another networking thing. See what I'm saying? So all of that stuff feeds on itself. And it really, let me put it to you this way. I've never run across somebody that says, Howie, I listened to your advice. I followed, and I started doing all this nonprofit stuff, and I've been involved with this Camp for Kids with Cancer for 10 years. And I'm telling you, I didn't get anything out of it. Never heard that.
So I think a lot of people, and I always ask myself this, because Howie kind of, you seem to just kind of be at the point where you've got it figured out. And also this came kind of naturally to you. Like, I know you worked at it, but this has always been kind of your default setting. But for those who aren't, I think a good how to do this would be, what are you great at? And how can you provide for a cause with what you're great at? So maybe if you are not volunteering and you don't want to stack cans, but you're great at building websites, maybe you build a website for a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you are great at negotiating deals and you're a realtor, maybe you go to a local charity and be like, hey, can I use my negotiation skills for you? Use a skill you're using in your business already, but do it for good and
great
pro bono.
point.
There's a negotiate $1 million grant
from the
for
city.
CRIT.
Yeah, for CRIT. Yeah, grant from the city of San Antonio for $1 million.
Or at least you helped with.
Yeah. Well, I invited the mayor and every city council person to come tour CRIT. And then there was an opportunity for an ask to make CRIT a delegate agency, and the city voted on it, and it was almost unanimous. One person didn't vote for it, but they got $1 million, free money.
Well, there's two things I'm passionate about. One, you guys already know, I like entrepreneurship, right? Which is why we're doing this whole mixer thing is all built out of that, wanting to bring entrepreneurs together, because entrepreneurship's tough. I like entrepreneurship. The other thing, though, is when I go to these municipal parks and there's just broken branches and dead trees and everything, that drives me nuts. That's something that I have a passion about, that I'm actually open to the idea of seeing where I could plug in there and help clean these parks up, because it's stupid to have dead branches and trees. It just junks everything up. It's like, and then all the balls of moss on the trees. It's like, does that have to be there? Can't we clean this up? I want to walk in a nice park.
So we do a website for a group called Basura Bash, and they go and clean up the river, the banks of the San Antonio River. It's called Basura Bash, and it's an annual event, and they get a bunch of people, thousands of people, to come out on one day or maybe a couple times a year, and then they clean it up. So maybe creating something like that and looking at that model. But to Heather's point, if you're an expert at something, and I've gotten people involved that way. There was a nonprofit that had an old house on San Pedro. They helped do the exchange between parents who have not so amicable divorce, and had a
like handoffs.
Hand off the kid from one parent to the other. But anyway, this old house was in ill repair, and they had bugs, and the landscaping was terrible. So I got clients of mine, a painter, an electrician, a landscaper, to all go do work. And they all had asked me the same. They all mentioned the same thing. They're like, well, what can I do? I don't know anything about volunteering, and they feel uncomfortable. They don't want to do it. I said, no, go do what you actually do for a living. I told the plumber, I go fix the toilets. Yeah. Oh, I could do that. They scheduled it, and they did it for free. So these people, the organization called Guardian House, this was years ago, they ended up getting thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars worth of free work that they would have otherwise spent their resources, their donated dollars, to go out and get done. And they got it done with nonprofits. And then I tell all these clients, I said, now put it on your social media. Oh, no, that's not why I did it. I don't want to get recognition for it. No, do it. You're inspiring other people to do something similar.
So just dip your toe in. You don't have to go complete left field and start being a Howie Nestel. That's going to take a while. But you can just align what you're already doing with charitable giving, charitable
And if you're a
work.
CFO, don't go sort cans at the food bank, but maybe go find a nonprofit. All nonprofits have problems with their financials. And just say, hey, I'd love, normally we charge $15,000 for an audit. We'd like to audit your financials.
We're going to come in and doge you.
And do it for free and doge you.
Doge you. All right, we're going to have to wrap it up, but great conversation. I love having our chats, and who knows, people out there are going to connect with, a few things that they may need to tweak in their entrepreneurial journey. All right. Thanks, everybody. So as we wrap up the show, quick reminder, check out our latest podcast and catch video versions of the show anytime by visiting our website at satalkradio.com. That's going to be it for this one. You guys have a great week. We'll see you on the next one.